welcome back to the channel. I'm gonna kind of wing this video. I don't really have a plan for what I'm doing this time. No big projects going on, but I have been doing a lot of little stuff, and when I get going on these little projects, that's when I have a hard time getting the camera out to film anything, because I get an idea and I just jump into it and I bust it out. So there was probably a bunch of little videos I could have done or something, but I think I'd just take this video and do kind of a rehash or a recap of what I've been up to. The biggest thing was the supercharger project on the truck, and then I did some other things to the truck that took up some time, so I wasn't working on the bike, as much for a little stretch there. But I got a bunch of other stuff ready to go, and getting close to actually probably taking it to the track. If the weather's gonna, start staying nice, I'm gonna start looking for a good weekend to go. I've also been sick for a couple weeks. Haven't missed work yet. But yeah, so I'm not really excited about going to the track on 45-degree evenings for a couple hours after work. I'm not going to learn nothing. The track probably isn't going to be that great. I'm just going to freeze my ass off in the leathers. So I'm kind of turning into a fair weather racer, or a fair weather test and tuner, because I really don't care if I go racing either. It'd be nice, I might hit an event or two, but this year, after getting the house and working on that, I'm just going to test and tune and probably just go for personal bests, and if things go well, then I'll hit some events. But I'll do a little recap on some of the stuff I've done to the bike. I've actually been having a lot of fun just out in my own garage finally working on stuff. Tonight I actually bought a $26 remote operated oscillating fan for the garage. It was kind of hot out today, so I'm like, I'm probably gonna need a fan for the garage, so 26 bucks at Menards if you're interested. So yeah, I'll get going and kind of show you some of the things I've done so far. So one of the first things I actually managed to do was save up enough money to finally get my nice injectors. So I got rid of I was running Injector Dynamics 1050X when the bike was just running on gas. Now I'm on methanol. I got bigger injectors in it finally. So I went from a 1050cc injector to these are 2200cc for methanol. And yes, I only run 4 injectors. I just don't see the point in running 8. Not at the power level I want. This isn't a 700 horse bike. It makes good power, but it's not 700 horse. 4 injectors is going to be super easy to tune, and it still will make pretty big power. So you can see a lot of people have asked about this, about how I'm only running 4 injectors with these throttle bodies. You can see where I took brass hex plugs. You can tap those to 1/2-inch pipe thread and run brass plugs in there, red Loctite them in, and then go into the bores on the inside, and you can smooth those out and radius them in. And the bores are perfectly smooth, like there was never anything in there. But just kind of a slick thing you can do if people, a lot of people are going to standalones these days, and there really is no reason to run 8 injectors if you got a standalone. Your tuning and everything will just be easier. Even when this thing was a dry nitrous bike, I was running 2 stages of nitrous. I was still only running 4 injectors. Being dry, you can make the injectors do whatever you want with a standalone. So kind of cool. And I do have the bike actually running with those big ass injectors. I can get it to run on gas, so I've been sort of dialing in my regular sort of pump gas, race gas, whatever, just regular gas tune-up. So not that I'll necessarily make passes on it, but if I need to fire the bike up, test things, do whatever, it will start and idle. And I had posted up that I finally had gotten it running, and I said I basically took out 100% fuel from what I was running. And somebody commented about, then would I do just take the fuel map and turn it to 0? No, not exactly. I said 100%. It was actually 99%. In the Fuel Tech software, you can just reduce the whole map, the whole fuel map by percentage. And I did it in 3 steps. I started out at 50%, tried to get it to start, wouldn't start. Tried to get it, took out 75%, and I was finally at 99%. Minus 99% of the map before the thing fired up and idled. So it's running with those injectors. It runs on a fraction of the cycle time it used to run with the smaller injectors. So not ideal for a gas setup, but it will run. So my plan now is to spend some time dialing in. I got to get the regular gas out of that cell yet, but plan now is to get going on dialing in the methanol tune. And once I got that methanol tune set up to where it'll start, fire, idle, go on the 2-step, all that, that's when I'll probably start going track testing. But yeah, those injectors, super reasonably priced. drop right in. Again, that was 5.0 Motorsports. That's their Black Ops Pro Series injector. Super cool. So on to the next little thing I've been doing. So you've already been staring at this plenum for the last whatever 5 minutes that I've been rambling, but that was one of the other things I worked on was the charge tube and plenum. I never liked, when I originally built all this and made it all fit, I had to tack it all together in my garage here. Well, my storage unit I was working out of. I just, not tack, I had to tape everything together for fit, go to my work, you know, half hour away, tack everything kind of based off of my markings, and then go back out to the storage unit where I was working and make sure it fit. So that running back and forth and only be able to tack things and weld stuff when it's off the bike, this fit at this joint was never quite a good fit the way I would like it to be. And now that I got my fancy little Everlast TIG welder now, I was able to cut that all apart, redo the flange on the plenum, and redo the V-band clamp on the charge tube, and actually change that segment of tube there. So that's all new welds through there, and I was able to tack that all together and weld it, well, not weld it completely on the bike, but do good tack so the stuff wouldn't move around. So that fit is like primo right now, and I'm super stoked about that. And that's just kind of something that's been hanging over my head for the last year. Now that I got my own garage at home and a welder, and yeah, it's just awesome. I'm super stoked on that. One of the other things I've been wanting to do is, since I switched to methanol and ditched the cooling system on the bike, I wanted to take out the wiring that was actually running from the ECU to the electric water pump and the electric fan, and then I had a boost activated output wired in. I was going to have it, this actually was still even labeled meth. I was originally going to run race gas and then do a water meth injection on the bike, so I had a boost activated output set up to go. I never did that. I just kept running the bike on race gas and making improvements and kind of having fun with it the way it was. So once I took the fan and the water pump off the bike, I knew that there was now a good chunk of wiring that just needed to go away on the bike. And I got a lot of anti-seize on my hands. Holy buckets. Anyway, I'll point with this guy. So anyhow, the way I wired this bike was every output and every sensor has its own lead that lead back to the ECU or my control panel board, to where I can just unthread it and I don't have to cut into any loom, and I don't have to cut any connectors or nothing off the bike. Anything I want to add or remove, simply either bolts on or bolts off, if that makes any sense. So the wiring on this bike, if you first look at it, maybe it looks kind of complicated, but the longer you look at it, the simpler it gets. So I was pretty stoked to be able to finally unwire a couple things in like, 3 minutes it took to get this off the bike. And now I don't have just random connectors tied up for stuff that's not on the bike anymore. And I don't have to worry about going back in the future and wondering what the hell the connector was for. But that stuff was all routed up through here. And this was my first standalone wiring. And I get a lot of people asking how I wired this bike. And see, that looks like a big old mess, kind of. But it's actually super simple. These bus boards, or these bus bars here, the top half of these is 5-volt signal, 5-volt ground for all my sensors. Then they're split. The bottom half is 12-volt ground, or battery ground, and 12-volt voltage. And then these are ground-activated relays I was using for, let's see, one's ECU, lights, there was water pump, fuel, fan, and I had one spare. And then this is my main heavy-duty relay for the injectors and the coils. So everything is like super accessible right there, and you can see it's all run. These are basically all the inputs to the ECU, and then the other side would be all the outputs to whatever goes on the bike. And everything is routed in its own loom. So any sensor, if I need to remove it or add one, I can just string it in wherever it needs to go, all the way down to like, fuel pump runs by itself, shock sensor runs by itself. Everything is separated. So even like air temp, if I want to take and rewire this lead will run by itself all the way up to the ECU, to my 5-volt sensor, 5-volt, or sorry, I'm talking too fast here, 5-volt reference, 5-volt ground, basically, and then signal wire from the ECU. And then people will look at the corner of the bike up here and wonder what's going on here. All my sensors are remote mounted. These are 0 to 150 PSI sensors. And then I use AN lines to go to whatever function they control, or not control, monitor. So obviously you can see these are labeled, one's oil pressure, one's fuel pressure. This one is crankcase pressure, and at one point I had one that was cooling system pressure, so if it ever lifted a head, I would see that on a data log and it would show pressure in the cooling system. So kind of a cool little feature. That's the Spark Pro box there, and then where the batteries go right here, which I'll get into the batteries right about now. One of the other things I've been testing on is the batteries I'm using on the bike now. And in one of my other videos I said, you know, I think I titled it like, yeah, I actually started my bike on RC car batteries. And that was probably a couple months ago. And I've still been testing on these things. And I have yet to even fully charge them. They've been in storage mode and they've still been holding up and working for what I've been doing, which has been a crap ton of cranking and starting on the bike. And I thought I would kind of give a little breakdown if anybody wants to go ahead and investigate this situation themselves. I know in the grudge racing world that people have been kind of doing this for a while now, and that's kind of where I found info to even start looking about doing this. But I know a lot of people that race RC cars, so I had a kind of an understanding of the batteries ahead of time. So once I saw that it was actually being done, I knew I could jump into it and research what I needed for, you know, battery sizing and whatnot to make this work. And I'm pretty excited about this because right now I decided I ditched the charging system on the bike. So there's no charging system, it's a total loss. So basically I'm running my bike like you would run your RC car. You're gonna charge batteries, run the bike until the batteries are dead and swap them out. And with any luck, you find out the batteries are dying before they're dead and you're not sitting in the staging lanes. But I'll explain that in a second here. So these are the batteries I'm running. These are, you know, the brand is Z, which if you start doing research on battery brands and stuff, these are one of the better reviewed batteries for the RC guys are using. There is a brand called Max Amps, and they actually do drag racing batteries for like cars and stuff, but they're known for their RC car batteries. Their stuff's pretty pricey, and I didn't want to take a gamble on them not working, so I searched out, you know, one of the better brands that's a little bit cheaper in price. These batteries each were like, if I remember right, I think like 45 bucks ish. But what I got going on is, let's see if you can see that. So it's a 700 milliamp hour or 7,000 milliamp hour, which basically works out to 7 amp hours, which for comparison, like a normal like cordless drill is anywhere from say 2.5 amp hours to like 7 amp hour would be a lot for a drill. So just for reference, you can kind of, you know, relate that to something. So I run 2 of these in the bike now, so I'm running basically 14 amp hours, and then these ratings on these, I'll explain this to you. So this battery, it's 14.8 volt battery. So these are 4S batteries. There's 2S up to like 6S, and what that refers to is the S number. It's the cells in series. So it's not CS, it's just S. So a 4S battery is 4 cells in series. That's how they get the 14.8 volts. So my bike runs on now 14.8 volts. Got 2 batteries, they're in series, so they actually, you know, it stays 14.8 volts, but I'm doubling up the amp hours. And the C rating, this 100C that you can see here, that's basically the try to like make it make sense. That's basically like the punch of the battery, like how much snap it's got like instantaneously. So the lower the C rating, the kind of, we'll say, lazier the battery is. Not necessarily weak, it just doesn't output as much as fast. So if that makes any sense, yeah, maybe not. But this is what I've been running for all the testing I've been doing in the garage. And like I said, they've just been in storage mode. So I got a pretty kick-ass little charger here. It charges both batteries at once. It'll balance charge them, fast charge them, discharge them, and storage charge them. So now I don't have to worry about my super fancy, whatever, full spectrum power battery that I've already junked 2 of them because I was lazy on my maintenance. If I'm not going to run the bike for a while, bam, put them in storage mode and leave them sit. They're fine. I got a little ballistic bag here. Not 100% necessary, but you know, it's LiPo guard. Just a precaution. So if anything was to go wrong, I keep the batteries in there. It pretty much takes major neglect, overcharging, excessive heat, or well, yeah, that's about it basically to make them fail. Overcharging is about the one thing that'll cause a fire, but that's kind of the, goes without saying for just about any battery. But that charger itself, that was only like, I think maybe between 80 and $100 or something like that. And what I'm going to do is get 2 more batteries, same thing, to keep on hand. So I'll have 2 in the bike ready to go, and 2 more, charged or charging in the trailer, and I can just swap them out. But offhand, the amount of cranking I've done in the garage on these things, not even with a charge in them, is more than I probably would be doing at any one day at the track. I've been in here a lot cranking on this thing, working on the tune, and that's why I'm more than happy to go this route, and that's why I'm finally kind of sharing the details of what I picked. So I want to see people go out and try different stuff, do cool things. So hopefully some of this is info and give you the encouragement to go do it yourself. So don't be afraid to try something different. The benefit of running 2 batteries also is these are 10 gauge wires, obviously not the normal size of like battery cable on a bike, but I doubled these up, and if you look at the bike here, these are what they call Dean's connectors. They're doubled up to terminals here. So 2 10 gauge wires is equal to 1 single 7 gauge, which is about the size of like a regular battery cable. So that setup itself reduces the load on the single wire setup on each battery. So as much cranking as I've been doing on this thing, these leads don't even get hot, and the bike cranks over like $1 million. So I'm pretty stoked on this setup. Like I said, these, they're not expensive, and those 2 batteries, these together, they weigh less than one of the full spectrums I was running, and they're cheaper, and they are actually less maintenance. I have not been happy with the aftermarket performance battery industry, just because I don't know, maybe I'm just an idiot, but it seems like as soon as I just would forget to take the battery out of the bike, or not charge it for a weekend or something, or put a maintainer on it, the goddamn thing would be dead. And I don't know how many times I was at the track last year, and I would have to have the thing sitting by my trailer with the battery charger on it, because if I took more than 2 tries to get the bike to start, the battery was toast. And I just got tired of every time I needed a battery or something, it was another $200, $300, $400 for a battery, and it was just stupid. So this is absolutely an experiment worth gambling on. And like I said, I've been working with this setup now for whatever. I'd go back and look at the dates on the videos, a couple months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever. And I have yet to put a full charge in those, so give it a shot. What do you got to lose? Some weight? So you can see up here, this is actually where the old battery used to sit, the full-size battery. So I ran a full spectrum up here, and then this holder on the side, I actually built this based around an 8-cell ballistic style battery. So this is actually where my new batteries sit. So no longer do I have to go up into the nose to do any kind of replacement or get into battery terminals for charging wires or anything. So now when the nose is on the bike, I can still access this, and the batteries go in super easy. And I'll show you exactly how easy right now. So I got this Velcro strap that I'm using to hold them in, and it's secured down here between 2 pieces of metal, so the strap can't actually fall off the bike. And then I got the pocket for the batteries lined with foam, so they're held in there solid. But it's literally just this easy. Set one in there, take the other one behind, set it in there, run my strap up over the balance wires, strap it down, connect them up. It's that easy. These actually stay disconnected. These are for balance charging, so it actually monitors each individual cell voltage, but just like that. And then the fairing runs right here. So even with the fairing on, nose on, I can just swap batteries out as if literally like it was an RC car. So 14.8 volts all the time. And actually fully charged, they should be close to 15 for a little bit, and then they'll kind of drop down. But just that easy. One of the things I've been doing to kind of, pass the time when I didn't feel like working on bike stuff was I really want to get good with that welder. And I haven't been able to do a whole lot of TIG welding, but I decided to build this clock, and I didn't make all the pieces. This is actually a kit you can order from Overkill Racing and Chassis. You can see their name down there, Overkill Racing and Chassis. It's a kit you can buy. Give you everything you need. Everything fits together, and they even give you a little clock motor. But I TIG welded everything together just to start learning how to get into, repetition. And it was a freaking blast. But that thing weighs, I bet you, 15 pounds. It's thick wall tubing. You can see that. But it's badass. So that was one of the other things I've been working on past time. So if you're interested, I suggest you go get yourself one of them and learn how to build it. So I'm not actually going to fire the bike up tonight. There's no oil in it right now because I did plugs, dumped the oil, went through the oil filter, and I'm actually going to drop the pan and go through that and double check everything before I fired it back up and start working on the methanol tune. So that's pretty much all I've been up to. Like I said, it's just a lot of little stuff that, individually probably wouldn't have been too much to watch, but over time and, me thinking about stuff, this is what I've been working on. So hopefully race season will get going here, or I should say for me, test and tune season, because I'm a king test and tuner, whatever. But hopefully we get to the track anyways and start learning some more stuff and trying some new things. And yeah, hopefully you guys are out there working on some stuff or getting to the track. Weather's getting nice. Next video I'll probably do will be actually, I'll get the laptop out and we'll do some tuning. If anybody's interested in seeing that business, running through some fuel tech software is pretty cool. But that's about it for now. Like I said, not much going on, little things. So hope you enjoyed.